All right, for today's video review, we're going to be taking a look at Transformers Prime Robots in Disguise Rumble. And yeah, this is a pretty neat little figure. Another character from the Transformers Prime toy line that was not present in the show. And yeah, I guess this is supposed to be a like a Transformers Prime version of Rumble, like the cassette bot Rumble, but a bit of a different take on him. Still kind of a small guy compared to a lot of the other like Transformers Prime figures, but he is actually a just a full-size Decepticon in this interpretation. And yeah, he turns into a neat little compact car here, which definitely I think for the time was considered a fairly small deluxe. It's kind of caught up a little bit with today's sort of sizing, but it's still a pretty cute little car. I definitely like it. Definitely, still doing, we're doing the blue Rumble here. So this is Rumble and the red one would be Frenzy. I do think that they did do this as Frenzy as well, but I want to say it wasn't released in the States. It was only in the Arms Micron line in Japan, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, no, pretty cute little car here. It definitely kind of gives me like animated Bumblebee vibes in terms of that kind of car, but yeah, it rolls pretty nicely. He does come with two weapons here, which are kind of again, more evidence to the fact that this is supposed to be a new interpretation of Rumble rather than just a new character with the same name. He does come with these two weapons, which are sort of meant to be kind of reminiscent of his pile drivers from G1, but instead they're kind of like cannons here. And yeah, the way that they store in vehicle mode, they have these pegs which are asymmetrical because of how they go on the arms. So you could do it either way with them kind of like sticking more up like this, or if you pegged in the other one on the other side, then they'd be a little bit further down. And they kind of just sit off the side of the car as these like guns, which, I've talked about it before. I don't really like the sort of just like gun stapled to the side of cars version of storage. I definitely prefer integrated weapon storage, but at least with this, it's like, okay, maybe it's like some kind of booster or something, which definitely also gives me a bit of a animated Bumblebee vibes, but so I generally put these off to the side because I don't like that, but at least it's kind of an interesting version of that whole thing rather than, just like sticking them on top and calling it a day. Yeah, in terms of comparisons in this mode, first of all, here he is for our standard one with Kingdom Sideswipe. So you can see, I think that they actually, by, today's standards, I think they scale fairly well. Here he is with Netflix Bumblebee, just because he's another sort of like compact car. So you can see, yeah, I don't know, like it's kind of reinterpreting the scale here as like, okay, now he's kind of just more of like a regular size car rather than like, when he came out, it definitely felt like, oh, he's like a small car, like he feels now. So it's like, yeah, I don't know how well that scale really works, but that's what they look like together. And then just because we looked at him somewhat recently, here he is with Transformers Prime Dead End using the Wheeljack mold, just for a couple other, a couple non-show characters from the Transformers Prime Robots in Disguise line. And yeah, to get into transformation, he's got a few neat things going on here. First thing you want to do is these whole side panels are they kind of just unclip here, and then you kind of want to like rotate them down because of this little like hook tab here while you're pulling them out, because they're also on these sliders, but you can't just like yank them out because of that. But you have to kind of like rotate them down. So it's kind of it takes there's kind of a trick to it. You kind of just have to, do it kind of simultaneously just to get those out there like that. Then you can take this entire section with the roof and just rotate it up for now. And then the front of the car will actually be his legs. So we can just split it down the middle. And then we want to take the front bumper of the car and actually rotate it to the inside of the leg, which then gives us the clearance to unlock the knee joint and then rotate it around like that. And then you can just take the foot in the bottom here and just flatten it out there and just do that on both sides here. And then with these, just because of where the doors end up going, you kind of have to like rotate them around as you go, because then you bring this section up and you actually split this whole roof section like this, and you unlock the chest panel here. And when you pull that down, a lot of the figures in the Transformers Prime line had like some forms of like head reveal automorph, and for him, it's just you unlock the chest, and when you like unfold it, then the head kind of springs up, which is a little bit funny because actually you don't need to do that for transformation at all. Like the head, it can store just like that in vehicle mode. There's plenty of space for it. So having the like extra head flip in there is actually completely unnecessary. It could just be out like that, but yeah, whatever. But yeah, you want to bring it out like that. And then when you bring these around, then the little hook tabs that I was talking about before, these kind of, if you get these out of the way, they go over here, and then these little slots right here, you just kind of slide them back into place, and they sit like that to kind of be like a facsimile of the little, weapons that G1 Rumble had over his shoulders. And then you can lock that in place, and then bring these down as the arms, and then take the actual like roof panels of the car, and they just unfold, double hinge up on these armatures. And this little section here will just clip over to the sculpting in the shoulder, just like that. And then you can rotate his forearms forward. Do that on both sides, and there we have Rumble from Transformers Prime in his robot mode. And yeah, again, kind of a different vibe. We'll see it in comparisons a little bit, but he is kind of like a small guy, so they're still going for Rumble being a kind of small robot, but definitely they've had to do some different things here when making him like a full-size guy. I like the head sculpt. Again, very different take. He's got like a mouth plate now, but a lot of the forms in general of Transformers Prime are kind of different takes, so it's nice there. I noticed this a while later, but they didn't put both of the paint apps on both sides here, at least on mine. I'm pretty sure that's just a QC thing, not like a running thing with the figure, because weirdly I had a number of experiences like that in the Transformers Prime line of like my Viacon similarly has like one of his like little things is only picked out on one side. My Insecticon, the shoulders are supposed to be mirrored, but they're the same piece, which kind of messes with the transformation. So I don't know, I had a weird number of like QC little issues like that in the Transformers Prime line, but whatever. But yeah, in terms of articulation, the head is on a ball joint here. It gets a pretty good range too. Can look up a pretty decent amount just because of where the actual socket is like located on his neck. The shoulders are on ball joints. They can rotate around like that. You can kind of use this joint to like bring it up like that, but it looks a little bit weird, but that is most of the upward movement here. He does have a bicep swivel for transformation, like a degree or two under 90 of bend at the elbow there. Nothing at the waist. The hips are on ball joints. He can go forward and back and out to the side. It's got a thigh swivel. It's got a pretty deep kind of full knee bend there just because of how it folds up for transformation. Then the feet are on ball joints kind of at the side, so they get a pretty decent amount of ankle tilt, and then they can also kind of tilt forward a little bit and back a lot. So pretty decent articulation, I'd say. Like you could definitely use a little bit more mobility in the shoulders and no waist joint, but otherwise fairly decent. And yeah, I don't know if I showed this off when I first got into robot mode, but he does actually have like little sculpted cannons here on these door panels to kind of like look like G1 Rumble's shoulder things, which is a pretty neat little detail. But yeah, we can bring on his little pile driver weapons here, and like I said, they are kind of linked to each hand. You can see the hands kind of like bend down like this in a bit of an arc, so that you want the peg to be facing the inside here, so you can kind of plug it fully into his hand so it looks like they just kind of transform out of the arms rather than being held as weapons. But there we go, we can give him kind of like pile drivery weapons like that. Unfortunately, there's not really, that's not true. I was going to say there's no real way to store them, but there are actually holes on the back of his arms there, so I think that would work pretty all right there. You can just plug them in like that. And yeah, that works pretty well for storage. But again, like I said, because it doesn't have vehicle mode storage, I tend to just leave these off to the side in a box of parts. But the shoulder ball joints have definitely weakened up a little bit over time. It doesn't help to have the extra weight on there, but that's pretty decent storage. But yeah, in terms of comparisons in this mode, here he is again with Kingdom Sideswipe and Netflix Bumblebee, just so you can see the kind of range there between an average size Modern Deluxe and a quite small Modern Deluxe. So you can see like he was a bit small for the time, but he's not really that much shorter than an average size Deluxe now. And he's definitely a bit bigger than like a really tiny one like a Bumblebee, who's basically like a scout class. So yeah, that's what he looks like with the two of them. Here he is again with Prime Dead End, just so you can see what he looks like with another Transformers Prime character there. And then just for fun, here he is with Studio Series Rumble, since they share a name. They're not totally the same character, kind of the same character. I don't know. I don't really consider him like to be Rumble, just because like this is my version of Rumble that I like. So he's kind of just considered a different character on my shelf entirely. I don't really have a good alternate name for him, but just, kind of another generic member of the Decepticon army, just so they can kind of coexist together. But yeah, no, he's a pretty fun little figure. Definitely, has loosened up a little bit over time. But yeah, no, I still quite like him. He's got a really nice little vehicle mode. The transformation is kind of neat and fun. And regardless of whether or not I like him as Rumble, I do really like the robot mode design. Like, yeah, I mean, he's got the big kibble panels on the shoulders here, but honestly, he kind of wears it well. I don't really mind that. I prefer that kind of thing rather than just having like a big, haphazardly folded up shell on the back, like, a lot of the like Bayverse designs and stuff have. So, I'm pretty much okay with his design here. A little bit of a bummer that he doesn't have the matching paint out there, but what can you do? But yeah, that's pretty much all there is to him. If you enjoy my videos, make sure to leave a like and consider subscribing. I do reviews every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. Make sure to check me out on my Instagram account. That's toys.n.art. And without further ado, here we have Transformers Prime Robots in Disguise Rumble.